Before we get started, please join me in invoking the Buddha's name 3 times. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Dearest Venerable Teacher, dearest Sangha, good afternoon. Today we are finally on the last path of the Eightfold Path, which I will still have to break into 2 sessions since it's a pretty big topic. We are covering now, or today, right concentration, samyak samadhi in Sanskrit. And so, as I was going through my notes, this is pretty much everything that we're learning in the meditation class. So if you've been following us or joining us for the meditation class, then a lot of this will sound pretty familiar. But hopefully it will give everybody at least a quick recap of everything that we've been learning so far this year, and hopefully learn some new information. But right concentration, of course, is just the ability to cultivate one-pointedness, right? One-pointedness is the samadhi. Samadhi in our meditation practice is the perfection of our concentration, essentially. And so as we go through our practice and we learn to develop the 2 main factors of meditation, samatha and vipassana, right? Samatha is the calming, the abiding part of meditation, where vipassana is the insight meditation. It's the meditation where we do our contemplation piece. But in order to practice vipassana, in order to practice the contemplations, and in order to develop that insight that vipassana gives us, we have to, of course, master the samatha part first, right? And so by practicing samatha, by practicing mindfulness of breathing, by practicing all the different meditations and the techniques that we go through, the end goal of that is samadhi, right? One-pointedness concentration. And so for the most part, there are 2 types of concentration. There's active and selective. So an active concentration is the meditation where there's not one specific object of meditation. So you sit and whatever comes, comes. So as things arise, as you hear the sounds, as you feel sensations or feelings, or whatever it may be, you concentrate on whatever arises when it arises, right? So everything that arises becomes your object of meditation. So you sit silently, you follow your breath, hear a door open, you be aware that the door is opening, right? You make that label, that mental notation of door or sound, right? If you hear dogs barking, dog, sound, bark, whatever you want to label it, right? Whatever comes to mind first, you label it, right? And so that is your practice. So as things rise, as things happen, you make the awareness of it, right? We don't give it stories like we typically do, right? When the door opens, we wonder, oh, who's here? Who dares comes into the middle of our session? Who dares interrupts our meditation, our chanting, right? Hear dog barking. Who are they barking at? Someone must be outside, being creepy at the window, whatever it is, right? We don't make these stories. We don't entertain those thoughts. And so we give it that quick label and it'll subside on its own. And then for selective concentration, it's pretty much the opposite. Selective concentration is where we do have an object of meditation and we give that our full awareness, our full attention. So for the most part, especially our meditation class, our object meditation that we've been holding on to is our breath, right? Anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing. So as we meditate and we cultivate that concentration and awareness of our breath, that is our object meditation, that's our full awareness there. And as our object of meditation, or as distractions arise, or as feelings come up, or sounds, we do the same thing with the labeling, but we go back always to our object of meditation, right? Versus an active we just let things come and go, right? Whatever comes becomes our object of awareness, our object of meditation. But in selective, we are holding on to our breath as the main object. And then whatever comes, we give it our quick attention and let it go. It comes and goes, comes and goes. But we're always holding that object of meditation in the foreground, right? And so as we start to practice this and as we start to develop and learn and become patient with ourselves, because this is not an easy task, right? But as we start to develop this concentration, develop sustained concentration, then that's where insight comes in, right? We develop insight as our concentration becomes stronger and stronger. Because what we're also trying to do is to really get to know our mind, right? That's really one of the main objects of meditation, is to become friends with our own mind. Because our mind is not always friendly to us, right? Sometimes our minds are against us. We think that we are masters of our mind, but it's really our minds are the masters of us, right? And I always say, if you were truly the master of your mind, you would be able to stop your thinking by sheer will. Can you do that? For more than 2 seconds? Probably not. So that clearly says you truly are not the master of your mind. But we can, eventually, with sustained concentration, with developing that concentration. Because we're getting to know our minds, right? I always say that our mind is obsessed with time. It's obsessed with the past, it's obsessed with the future. So as you try to sit in the moment and be concentrated, right, your mind's like, no, I don't like this. Let's think about that tragedy that happened 5 years ago, right? Let's think about that argument we had with our significant other 2 years ago, right? It's trying to bring back and take you away from the present moment. And the same thing with the future. It brings up anxieties of the future. It brings up, oh, I have to do this, your to-do list, right? Your aspirations and goals, and just trying to create this imaginary, illusory scene of the future, right? So it doesn't want to keep you here. So our practice now is to basically shoo off the past and present and to try to keep ourselves right here in the present moment. But again, it's no easy task, obviously. So that's why we call it practice, because we need that practice to develop. But as we sit for meditation, right, and a lot of times people become discouraged because they sit and they're like, I just cannot stay calm. I cannot stop thinking. I cannot just concentrate on my breath. First of all, who told you to stop thinking? It did not come out of my mouth. There's no way you can stop thinking. The object of meditation is to not stop thinking. Eventually, down the line, it'll become less and less of a thing that occurs, but that is not the object. That's not the point of meditation, is to stop thinking. The point is to know that you're thinking, to know what you're thinking, how you're thinking, and where it takes you, right? Some of our thoughts are not always wholesome and good thoughts, right? Sometimes we're thinking maliciously. Sometimes we're thinking about revenge, about hatred, about ignorance, whatever it may be, right? These are unwholesome thoughts. So as we start to meditate and become more concentrated and develop that sustained concentration, then we get to know our mind a little bit better, right? We get to know where things arise, how they arose, right? And what caused them to arise. That way, once we start to really dig down deeper and ask ourselves why continuously, and we get to the core objects or core reasoning of why we think such a way or feel such a way towards people or places or things, now we have something tangible that we can do something about, right? Now you know exactly why this person causes you such distress, or now you know why a certain place brings back certain types of memories, or whatever it may be, right? So, but you have something to work with. So now that you have something to work with, you can do something about it. You can attempt to eliminate it completely from your life, maybe lessen it a little bit, maybe you have to distance yourself from certain people, or you know, cut them off completely, whatever it may be, right? Only you know what you have to do, but at least you have something to work with at this point, right? But as we sit and meditate and we start to develop and continuously bring ourselves back to our meditation object, then this creates the initial stage called preliminary concentration. Now you've stepped your foot through the concentration door, through the meditation door, right? Now you're in it's little house. So, but once you're in, because you have to know what to do for meditation, right? There's literally a plethora of books and articles and videos of meditation, right? And so sometimes we really don't know where to go or what to do or what to read or how to practice. So part of a good practice is to practice with the community, right? So that's why we have the meditation classes, because it's good to have some sort of teacher or advisor, someone to help you through your practice, because they're going to come to a point, or come many points in your practice where you either hit a bump or you just kind of hit a wall, you don't know what to do, or you don't know how to react when something happens, because there's a lot of things that happen in our mind during meditation. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, but it's good to be able to skillfully work towards whatever's coming up, right? Because we have different types of meditations. Because once we start to get past the initial stages of meditation, once you start getting used to being able to sit and concentrate on your object of meditation and hold that concentration or sustain that concentration, this is where those 5 hindrances start to arise, right? Because now that you're over that little excitement bump of your first state, a few stages of meditation, now the bigger problems come, right? Because the little problems are just the small distractions. Those are the minor problems. And the bigger problems are the 5 hindrances, right? Ill will, desire, worry, doubt, and restlessness, right? These are the big hurdles that come through meditation. And we have to be able to overcome these hindrances through our meditation practice. But so as we practice, and as we are able to identify the hindrance, as we're able to know what is arising during the hindrance, where it's coming from, why it's there, etc., then we can apply a specific type of meditation to counteract the hindrance, right? Because all the hindrances have antidotes, basically. And each of those antidotes are a different type of meditation. So for the hindrance of ill will, we meditate on loving kindness, metta, right? For the hindrance of desire, we meditate on impermanence, etc., etc. So each hindrance has its own type of meditation. And so as those hindrances arise, if you're able to identify them correctly into the correct bucket or the category, then you can skillfully apply the correct meditation method to counteract them. And as we continue, going along this path and being able to develop our concentration, then we're able to activate 5 mental factors that come to our aid, right? And these are the factors that are always there in our everyday consciousness, everyday life, but they're not, they're undirected, and they don't they don't work together holistically. But by using meditation to activate those factors, then we're able to really power it up, link it up together, and use it toward developing our samadhi, right? Or the jhana factors, the factors of absorption. And so these 5 factors are initial application of mind, sustained application of mind, rapture, happiness, and one-pointedness. So the initial application of mind is really just directing the mind to the object, right? It's what you do first when you sit for meditation. Sustained application is anchoring that object in meditation for the duration of your sits or your walking, whatever type of meditation you're doing. But you're sustaining that object in meditation. So you're continuously bringing it back as you get distracted or as things arise. And the difference between them, we can compare the initial application of mind to the striking of the bell, right? That's our initial application. Sustained is the reverberations that come from the sound of the bell, right? So you hang on to the initial is the strike. The sustain is to hold your awareness to the sound of the bell, right? So it's the same thing with our object meditation. Object meditation is our breath, so the sustaining that concentration is keeping up with the breath without allowing the distractions to take over. Right? Because always in the meditation class, our object meditation is always in the foreground and our distractions are in the background. Those distractions are always trying to come and kick it out of our foreground, right? But if we use correct awareness and correct mindfulness, we can see those distractions coming. And so when they try to bump our object meditation out of the way, we can apply mindfulness to kick it back into the background, right? Because we'll always have those small, wispy distractions in the background, but they're not strong enough to completely take over your object meditation, right? And then rapture, the third factor, is the delight and joy that accompany a favorable interest in the object. And happiness is a pleasant feeling that accompanies successful concentration. And so we've been covering this in meditation class and saying that once you're able to sit and you hold on to your object in meditation and you're concentrated fully, right, to a certain degree, then you'll start to feel a nice, joyous feeling somewhere in your body, right? Maybe it's in your hands as you sit, maybe it's somewhere in your chest, but somewhere in your body you'll have a really good feeling, right? This joy, this feeling of rapture, and the happiness piece here is being able to expand that joyous feeling that we're getting. And so we compare rapture here to being able to see an oasis in the background, right? If we're in the desert. And happiness is being able to get to that oasis, drink the water from the pond and sit in the shade, right? So the same thing. And when we're meditating, we're like, oh, this feels really good. And then as we sit longer and longer, it feels even better and better. And you have that really calm, sustained, just bodily sensations, right? You're just like, this feels good. This is what meditation is supposed to be like, for the most part. And then, of course, one-pointedness is the pivotal function of unifying the mind on that object. And so when concentration is developed, then these 5 factors spring up and they counteract all the hindrances, right? So each of the absorption factor is opposing a particular hindrance. So the initial application of mind, as we are able to lift up the mind to the object and maintain or hold on to the object, that counters dullness and drowsiness, one of the hindrances. Sustained application, that is anchoring the mind, drives away any doubt. Rapture shuts out ill will. Happiness excludes restlessness and worry. And one-pointedness counters sensual desire. So as we start to strengthen these factors, right, they'll start to oppose and push away the hindrances slowly and slowly. They won't be completely eradicated, because to eradicate them requires wisdom, but at least they'll be subdued enough where they are dormant and they're no longer there. They will no longer affect your concentration, right? Because they're dormant, because you're able to apply the different type of meditation to oppose a certain hindrance. So it's still there, it's not completely eradicated, but at least it's not strong enough to take over your meditation. And then once we start to continue our practice and the hindrances get overpowered by these jhana factors, then as we suppress the 5 hindrances, then the mind enters a stage called upacara samadhi, which is, if you've been to our meditation class, access concentration, right? That's the big theme of our class this time, is access concentration. So in access concentration, the mind is getting close to absorption, right? You're getting close to the more advanced levels of meditation. You've entered the neighborhood of absorption, but you're still window shopping at this point. You haven't entered any of those fancy houses, right? Those fancy houses are the advanced levels of meditation. You're just window shopping at this point. But with further practice, with further developing that concentration and really strengthening it, right? And bringing that mind to full absorption, then then the mind will enter one of those fancy houses, right? Now you're really inside one of the higher levels of meditation. So in axis concentration, the jhana factors are present, but they lack any strength. They lack any steadiness, right? Because they kind of come and go, and they're a little bit wispy. They're not as strong as they should be yet. So the mind in this stage is compared to a child who's just learning to walk, right? They get up, they walk around, they stumble, they fall, and they get up, they walk around, they stumble, and they fall, and they get up, and they do it over and over again. But the mind of absorption is like an adult. We're able just to get up and walk straight ahead with no issue, right? And so, like a child learning to walk, we also have to learn to anchor our minds, work on our mind, work on our meditation objects. So once concentration is in the stage of absorption, then it's divided into 8 levels, right? These are the 8 higher levels of meditation. And so the first 4, of course, are the 4 jhanas or 4 dhyanas, the meditation absorptions. And the second 4 also form a set, which are the 4 immaterial or formless states, arupa dhatu. So each of these 8 stages, they have to be done in progression, right? In order to achieve any of the later levels, you have to, it's completely dependent on the mastery of the immediate preceding level, right? So you can't skip levels when it comes to the absorptions. But and that's why I'm going to stop for this session. But we'll be able, and we'll talk, in our next session, we'll talk briefly a little bit more about the jhanas, which I won't also go into very much detail because I'll go over them enough to give you enough information, but these are pretty big topics and advanced methods that may or may not benefit you. And I have not fully mastered all of them, so I always mention that I will never teach or try to teach on something that I have not fully mastered or experienced myself. So even though there's 8 levels, I have to stop at a certain level because I can't go past that, because I can't speak about the more advanced levels. But I'll at least go over all of them just for you to give that good enough understanding of what they are, what to expect during at least the lower levels of those meditations. Because at least for the first level, the first jhana level or dhyana level is something that may have happened to you unknowingly, right? Because what it is, it's a very strong moment of concentration where you're just fully, completely with your object of meditation, right? And we say object meditation here, but it really could be anything. So if you're doing dishes, for instance, or cleaning or cooking, and you're completely one with what you're doing and completely focused on just that one task or just that one object, and you're really just going the motion. You and the dishes are one. You're one with the water, you're one with the soap, right? And you have this feeling of calm and serenity to it. That technically is how the first level of the jhana feels like, right? You're one with the breath. You are in the breath, even though you technically literally are, but you really feel it in this level, right? You really feel that you're completely one with the breath. And but we're only able to get to that point by mastering that axis concentration, right? Which we've been spending the last, 3 months in our meditation class. That's been our object of meditation, object of the class is axis concentration. Because you really have to be able to access axis concentration in order to really develop and strengthen your meditation practice, right? Because like in the name, it gives you access to the higher levels of meditation. It gives you access to the potential insights and aha moments that you would have during meditation. Because you will have aha moments depending on the type of meditation you're doing. But as we work on that concentration piece, as we work on developing and sustaining and holding on to our objects of meditation, then you'll slowly be able to hopefully recognize that you're being distracted and having wandering thoughts less and less, right? And that's really the goal here, is to know when you're being distracted, to know when you're being swayed here and there by our mind, and be able to acknowledge it, let it know that, hey, I'm paying attention to you. I know you're trying to distract me. You're not my master yet. Right? So you are being completely aware, right? So you may not ever get to a point where you're completely undistracted, where you have completely no thoughts, right? Because again, that's not the point. That's just a side effect that may happen, but it's not what will always happen, right? But at least you'll be able to hopefully notice that you're thinking less and less, right? You're having less and less monkey mind, right? Mind that's wandering from one thought to another constantly. And so once you're able to fully see that once a distraction arises and you label it and you let it go, right? Because you're acknowledging it by giving it the label, and then it'll naturally go away because your mind's like, okay, you caught me, right? And so it kind of hides away for a little bit, and then it comes up with another distraction, and you become mindful, and you're like, oh man, you caught me again, right? It's basically a game of tag or hide and seek with you and our thoughts. And so as we start practicing more, your mind will get used to you trying to become more aware and more mindful, and then it'll stop, right? Because just like working out, you can't just go to the gym one time and all of a sudden you're a bodybuilder, right? You have to go for months, years in order to get that bodybuilding body. I don't know what it's called. There's a word for it. I just can't come to it. But meditation is the same thing, right? You can't just come to a session or two and all of a sudden you're a Zen master. It doesn't work that way. So you really have to apply that practice and apply that discipline. And I always say it's really about the quality and not the quantity. Because if you sit for 30, 40, 50, an hour, but you're completely distracted the whole time, you've wasted a whole hour for nothing. But if you're able to sit and maintain and sustain your concentration for at least 5 minutes, then that's more beneficial for you than sitting for an hour doing nothing, right? But you have to be able to give yourself that discipline, make yourself have that discipline. So give yourself that 5-10 minutes a day and then work your way up, right? Because it's not easy to sit quietly for 5-10 minutes for some people because we're afraid to be with ourselves, by ourselves. And so you really have to start small and work your way up. And as you work your way up, you'll notice how less and less distracting you're becoming. And you become more calmer, you become more aware, you're becoming more mindful. And then you can take those benefits and those practices off the cushion into your everyday life, right? That way when you come to a situation or a circumstance where maybe you're in an argument or you're about to fight someone, right? But if you're able to practice mindfulness and awareness, you can catch those unwholesome thoughts before they become unwholesome speech, before they become unwholesome actions, right? You're able to stop yourself from the very get-go before something major happens, right? Because everything starts with our mind, right? You start thinking things, and then your thoughts become speech. Your speech becomes action. So if you're able to stop the bad things from the initial process of thinking, then you can stop yourself from saying bad things and stop yourself from potentially doing bad things, right? Because sometimes we say something bad or do something bad and then we regret it later. Right? We're like, I probably should have said that or did that, but that wouldn't have happened in the first place if you're able to truly be mindful and aware of that thought, of your thinking as it's happening. So that way, whenever we're in difficult situations or in an argument, it's good to take those deep breaths and think about what's happening, right? Because we're very reactionary beings, right? We react without thinking, that's what I'm trying to say. We react without thinking, right? And those reactions without thinking could potentially cause harm. So instead of reacting right away with hostility, with anger, with ignorance, with whatever it may be, if we're able to stop first and be mindful of what's going on, be aware of our own situation and the situation of the other person, then we're able to think logically, right? And objectively, and then react accordingly. So that way our practice from the cushion can go out and help us in our everyday life. But again, it takes practice. And it's difficult to be mindful 24/7, obviously. But the more you practice being mindful with anything that you do, then it's easier to start training our mind to automatically and habitually be mindful, right? So as you're walking to the temple or leaving the temple, going to your car, be mindful of your steps. Be mindful of how you're walking. Be mindful of how your feet feel as you walk. Be mindful of the things around you, of the sounds that you hear, of the smells you smell, right? Be mindful. And so as you drive, you're being mindful. If you're being mindful as you're driving, then you're practicing defensive driving, right? You are avoiding speeding, you're avoiding causing an accident or cutting into people, or even reacting when someone cuts you off, right? Which is my big topic, my big example that I usually give, right? If someone cuts you off, our habitual reaction is to cut them off, to flip them off, cuss them out, react unwholesomely. And if we do that and we want to cut them off, then we can potentially cause an accident, right? Cause an accident with them, we can hurt them, potentially injure multiple people, kill multiple people potentially, right? All because we reacted unwholesomely. We allowed our mind, that's our master, our ego, to take. Okay, I'm going to stop there, and then we will continue the second part in our next session. Since this is a big topic, so our next session we'll go over those 8 levels of meditation and go from there. What questions do you have? Concerns? Emotional outbursts? Yes, sir.
Well, in mantra meditation, is concentration automatically going to imply when you're trying to keep a mantra for a certain amount of time?
I'm sorry, say again?
In mantra meditation, is concentration kind of implied because you're trying to keep a mantra going for as long as you can anyway?
So mantra is a type of kasina. So kasina is a type of object of meditation in Buddhism. And there's 10 specific kasinas that are in the sutras, and mantra is not one of them, but mantra is now a part of it, right? In Mahayana tradition, mantra meditation is now one of those kasinas. But the point of the meditation, of the mantra, or any of the kasinas, is a tool for aiding and sustaining your concentration, right? You're using a mantra instead of using your breath, right? It's something that's actively being done versus the breath is more passive, right? You're not really doing anything outside, so it's easier for distractions to arise when you're just being mindful of the breath. But when you're being mindful of like a mantra, right, you're physically saying something out loud, right? So you have two pieces of concentration: the mental part of holding the concentration and the physical part of speaking mantra out loud, right? So you have two pieces helping you hold and sustain that concentration. So mantra meditation is very effective in being able to keep your concentration longer, right? So every other meditation class, we do mantra meditation for our sit, right? We're chanting Amitabha. We do it while we walk, and then we sit and we chant it faster and faster and faster until we come to a stop, right? And you'll notice either very little or no distraction at all will occur during this session, because you're physically saying something, right? It's harder our mind to be distracted when you're physically speaking the words. And then 2, as we go faster during that session, your mind is also, trying to keep up, because we go pretty fast eventually, right? So your mind's trying to keep up, and your mind's doing the exercise of speaking. So it's a very effective way to develop and hold on to concentration. It's highly recommended. But a mantra could be anything. It doesn't have to be spiritual Buddhist. You can be like bus, 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 right? Or candle, 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 color, house, 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 food, 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 whatever, right? There's no power in the mantra itself. So you can literally use any word. The point of the mantra is to just maintain its momentum, right? So just to hold on to one thing at a time. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
I know I went off topic slightly, but
One more question.
okay.
So in states of sort of like zoned in, or you're in a state of flow with the activity like you're talking about, when you become aware that you are, seems to be, for me anyway, seems to be the moment I lose that. So I can be so in tune with the action I'm engaged where it almost feels like meditation. But the moment I realize I'm in that zone, I mean, I can go through that zone and totally not put any attention to it. The moment attention arises within that zone is the moment I kind of lose it. I notice this with certain things I'm really intensely enjoying or absorbed into. You know what I mean? To a point like it's automatic. It's happening in such a way that it's not even thought goes by. It's like autopilot in a sense. So how do you engage in acknowledging that you're in that state and not lose that state?
So that happens often. Because what is happening here is we become aware of that zone and we become excited. And so it's that excitement that breaks the clarity of that being in the zone, right? So it's okay to get to a point of being aware, because you have to be aware of it happening. But what may often happen is we get in the zone and then we figure out that we're in the zone. We get excited and we're like, oh my God, I'm in the zone. This is the zone, right? And it's at that point where the zone is lost. So once you are aware of being in the zone, just be aware that you're in the zone. Don't get excited about it. Don't mentally say, I'm in the zone. Basically you're ignoring it, right? And you're just continuing on. You're continuing your awareness without the excitement, because it's the excitement that pushes us out of that zone.
Use a label, right?
That's right.
I'm in the zone.
That's right. Exactly. Yes. Any other questions? All right, I also want to remind everyone that next Sunday is Vesak, our holiest day of the year. So please join us if you're able to. This will be next Sunday at 10 a.m. So there won't be any regular service at 12:30, so it'll just be our celebration at 10 a.m. So I hope everyone can join us for that. We're going to have our first official opening ceremony, so that's also going to be very exciting. So please join us if you can. Yes, sir.
You want to talk about the Tuesday meeting also? Or can I ask Tuesday meeting?
Oh, yes. It's been gone for so long, I almost forgot about it. So also our Buddhism 101 class starting up again every first and third Tuesday, 6:30. So we're doing that in person and also live on Facebook. So this coming Tuesday is our first one, right? So this coming Tuesday, 6:30 here. So we'll start that up again finally. Every first and third Tuesday, 6:30. And then our meditation class, we only have 2 more classes for meditation before we take a break and have our retreat. So our meditation retreat, we're doing 8 precepts retreat, and that'll be June 25th. There's a little poster on the sign there, so you do have to register if you attend that. But that's it. Did I miss anything? That's it, right? Okay. All right, well, please join me in transferring the mirror, and then we'll go to chanting. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha Namo Shakyamuni positive karmic action we've accumulated here today, we wish to transfer the merit to all sentient beings and wish them full enlightenment.
Prince is the future. He's the future Buddha, and he's the founder of Buddhism. So the ceremony is a celebration of the birthday of Prince Siddhartha, our future Buddha, our founder of Buddhism. So today we do return to page 201.
Okay, I'm just gonna check this one. Do I stop here? Yeah, stop.
Yeah, all this, and even this transfer merits and Motak.
But then this is the end.
Yeah.
The halo of wisdom spreading in every direction, enveloping all with love, compassion, joy, and equanimity. The instructional virtue of the world of one cannot be adequately praised. We appropriate Buddhist temple on this earth, gather as fourfold center, come to the altar, meditate and chant, praise the virtuous action of the Buddha, and offer this prayer. May the path of Buddha go brighter. May the Dharma become clearer. May wind and rain be favorable. May this country be at peace. May Ukraine be at peace. And get out the invasion of the madman, the one criminal Putin. May all follow the way of right practice. May nature be safe. May people in society be free and equal. May the refreshing breeze of compassion enter into this world of hurt, allowing the sun of wisdom to shine clearly in the cloudy sky, so that the path of liberation is appreciated everywhere, and the Dharma reign forth, benefiting all species. May the Sangha that is present here practice diligently, showing concern and love for each other. As they would for their whole family, transforming their consciousness. We aspire to follow the example of Bodhisattvas, Mahāsāvaka, and other experts, and all other Bodhisattvas, Mahāsāvakas, and the repercussion of wisdom. Namo
Sakyamuni Buddha, Namo Sakyamuni Buddha, Namo Sakyamuni Buddha. His speech and mind in perfect oneness, I send my heart along with the sound of the bell. May the hearers awaken from forgetfulness and transcend all anxiety and sorrow. Listen, listen, this wonderful brings me back to my true home. Gratitude we offer this incense to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas throughout space and time. May it be fragrant as earth, reflecting our careful efforts, our wholehearted mindfulness, and the fruit of understanding slowly ripening. May we and all beings be companions of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May we awaken from forgetfulness and realize our true home. Incense in the censer now is burning, all the Dharma realm in every place. Auspicious clouds appearing, our sincere intention thus fulfilling, as all Buddhas now show their perfect body. Homage to the incense cloud canopy Bodhisattva and great Bodhisattvas. To the eternally abiding Buddhas, the supreme Dharma and sagely Sangha, throughout the Dharma realm and the realm of empty space and three periods of time. To the fundamental teacher Shakyamuni Buddha, Maitreya, honored future Buddha, Manjushri, great wisdom Bodhisattva, universal great conduct Bodhisattva, all Dharma guarding Deva Bodhisattvas, and the glorious mountain assembly Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. To Amitabha Amitabha Buddha in the land of ultimate Avalokiteshvara, great compassion Bodhisattva, great strength Bodhisattva, earth stored great vow Bodhisattva, and the assembly of great pure sea like Bodhisattva. More great compassion in Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Namo great compassion in Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Namo great compassion